This is the story of Dido Elizabeth Belle, who was the biracial niece of Lord Mansfield, who was the Lord Chief Justice of England in the 18th century and was the highest judge in the land. He chooses to adopt his niece, raise her as his child, and raise her as an aristocrat. So she is a biracial woman raised in England in high society as a very privileged woman, and it's really her story, the story of her relationship with her adoptive father, and also a wonderful love story as well. The cast is led by Gugu and Mbatha-Raw, and she is an incredible emerging British talent. We surround her with a thespian cast, Tom Wilkinson and Penelope Wilton, Miranda Richardson, Emily Watson, and also emerging talents like Tom Felton, who's been around for a long time but is now taking really wonderful risks with his career, I think, and this is one of them. James Norton, Sam Reid, who plays the wonderful love interest in this story, and of course the brilliant Sarah Gaydon, who plays Elizabeth Murray in this story. It's a great, great cast, and I'm so proud of what they've done on screen.
Misan Sagay, I'm the writer.
It's absolutely fantastic to have you here tonight. Can you just tell us what it was about this beautiful, true story that made you want to bring it to life on screen?
I think it was Belle herself. The first time that I saw her, I encountered her in a bedroom at Scone Palace, and she looked directly at me, and I knew there was a story here. And it's just wonderful after all this time now to see her on screen. It's just amazing.
What was the biggest challenge in bringing the script to life?
I think with a true story, you're always wondering what to put in and what to take out. We didn't have that much real sort of information about Belle, so in lots of ways that was an advantage because it let us be free to be able to make the story that we wanted to make. I think what was wonderful about the person of Belle is how the themes of race, gender, and just the theme of belonging all came together in her being, and that I think those are very, very important themes still till today, looking at the place of women in society, looking at the place of black people in society, and looking at the role of class. And I think all those together make for a wonderful story that's set in its time but still has marvellous resonance for today.
I played John Davinier, who is a young vicar's son, who has aspirations to be a lawyer, and he goes under tutelage of Lord Mansfield, and there he meets Dido Belle, and they slowly fall in love. But he's got lower social standings to her. And there's all the dramas of a period drama that you would expect from a romance that ensues, essentially.
Of course, you're working very closely with the magnificent Tom Wilkinson, standing right next to you at the moment. What was that like? Can you talk about that experience?
It was great. I mean, you couldn't ask anything better. Hello. I'm talking about you. It's kind of hard. No, it's great. I mean, he's such an incredible actor, and as a young actor, I looked up to him so much, and so to have the characters mirror that relationship was, massive gift.
I mean, the film has some really big themes about identity and race. I mean, what specifically had resonance for you? What interested you about your character and about this particular story?
Oh, so much, really. But I think what excited me about John was that when he meets Dido, what he sees in her is a snooty, rich aristocrat. He doesn't see her for the color of her skin. He doesn't see her for anything else apart from who she is in her behavior. And I think that was a very exciting thing to play as a man of that time with such forward-thinking beliefs, beliefs that we should all carry today. And that's something that he walks through the film with, and he's kind of bashing his head against a brick wall the whole time. Who he adamantly believes that human beings should not be owned, which they should not be. And he will do everything in his power to make sure that ceases. Well, I tried very hard not to ignore my modern perspective. I tried very hard to bring that modern perspective because I feel like that Dido and John's character are modern characters. They are there to break the rules, and that's what kind of the message of the film is that you have to break the rules to change them. How you break them is a different matter, but I felt it was very important to keep a modern sensibility in discovering the character.
Of course, the heart of the story is this wonderful love story as well. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect of it, and particularly working with Gugu?
I loved working with Gugu. I mean, we've had a great time. She's an incredible actress. I mean, she completely nails the role. She was born to play the part, essentially. We had a great time. We had a great time working together. Yeah.
I play a quite high-ranking society lady who's got 2 sons to marry off. And the 18th century British society was all about the status and land and possessions and money, and she wants them to get as good a deal in life as possible. And when it turns out that the girl she's interested in for one of her sons is not going to inherit any money, but the mixed race Belle is, she starts to change her attitude to how black Belle appears and how acceptable she might be as a wife for one of her sons. And it's quite fascinating to watch her slipperiness, her practicality. But she does consider she's going to take Belle as part of her household. I won't tell you what happens, but it's one of the ideas, one of the storylines in the movie.
Is it quite liberating to play a character who's so openly Machiavellian and calculating?
Well, it is quite fun. There's some good lines, and yes, I had great fun. I had great fun in a carriage scene, which we had to shoot in 15 minutes flat at the end of the night, just getting cross, and it was a good experience all around. Lovely people, lovely director, lovely script, and I think audiences will have a really satisfying experience if they go and see this movie.
Of course, you have a couple of very handsome sons in the film, which we will recognise. Tom's character's a little less likeable than your other son. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he does it so well, and he's the nicest guy in the world, honestly, off screen. But they'll be booing and hissing, I think.
The film touches on a lot of very significant themes. Do you think they're going to have resonance for a modern audience? They're going to feel very appropriate to our own lives?
Unfortunately, they are going to have resonance. These are still rearing their ugly heads now, and although I haven't read the finer points, the Justin Bieber, I can't believe I'm giving him publicity just by saying this, but anyway, you know what I mean. He's apparently come out with some racist slur, which I haven't actually, but he's not going to get away with that. Nobody's going to get away with it these days because the public are on it much more. I mean, the tiny stories we miss, but they shouldn't be missed. We're getting better at that, I think, with social networking, and it's helping draw attention to the causes that need to be addressed. So that's all I can say.
After this, what are you going on to next? Where are we going to see and hear?
I'm filming Map and Lucia at the moment, which is huge fun. It's a very, very English story, and I've got to get back there tomorrow, so I'm very pleased I could come up here and be part of this tonight.
Can you just start by telling us a little bit about your character and working with Tom in playing 2 very different brothers?
Yes, we are quite different. We had a big romance off camera, but on not so much. Oliver is, I think he's a really interesting character. I mean, what drew me to the role is that he isn't a stock villain by any means. He's a sympathetic character, beautifully written and conceived of, because he really is a sort of symbol of the times. He really represents a young, modern guy who is trying to do the right thing. Who, he in modern day he'd be living in Islington, he's not sort of particularly old school right wing in any way of the period. So I think, he represents what the views of the time were then and how far we've come since then. And I think also hopefully he might make us think, do we have any modern prejudices which we should look at? If Oliver was totally unaware of them, are we unaware of some? And will 200 years' time, will our great-great-grandchildren be looking at us going, oh, they were a bit, you know what I mean? So maybe, hopefully it might have that effect. But yeah, an amazing character. I mean, it's imperative to have characters like Oliver. If you have a hero like a heroine like Dido and Sam Reid and Tom Wilkinson play guys who are incredibly progressive and in sort of the context of the period are sort of the heroes of the piece. But you have to, as you say, you have to set the context. And if you have everyone else as sort of written off as these stock villains who don't really have any particular reason for their views, then it kind of takes away from the progression and the point of the story. Whereas if people like Oliver are normal and of the modern people of the time, then it makes the whole journey much more kind of poignant, I think, for doesn't make any sense at all.
What makes this such a special and poignant story?
Well, it's true. It's a good start, or inspired by the truth. Historical fact, quite unique for its time and, in a way, very resonant still today, about a woman finding a place in the world, self-discovery, and just how, that hasn't changed. People need roots and need to know who they are and being true to oneself. Well, it was a very interesting casting process because, and they came, frankly, they signed up because of the story, and it was, because it was so unique. It's a classic sort of period romance in a Jane Austen tradition, first and foremost, and I think that's executed beautifully. But underneath, it really has something to say about this woman who existed and her place in society and adopted into the aristocracy. So it's interesting that they all came along, and it was that they just wanted to be a part of something special. It was unique, and Tom Wilkinson, it's masterful. Penelope Wilton is fantastic. Miranda, Richardson, we were really, and then we had the younger folk, Emily Watson, of course, too, and then the younger cast, where who are our sort of love interest and suitors. So that was really about the best for the role, and we think we got and actually they've all risen in their careers since we shot the film. So it's a very exciting group, both young and old.
I loved the story. I thought it gives you an insight into how society works. And I loved the central character. I thought she was interesting, and I thought the way the script dealt with her and her sort of maturity and so on as the film goes on was fascinating, and I was happy to be part of it. The criteria for the success of narrative arts are very simple. Do you want to know what happens next? And I think that's all you want to say. The answer in this case is yes, I'm sure it's true. Yeah, well, Gugu's sort of just starting out, so I hadn't worked with her. Emily I've worked with God knows how many times. Penelope I've worked with before. I love working with Emily Watson. She's a wonderful person and a great actress. And Gugu is fantastic as well. So it was bliss. And when something is well written, it's a kind of easy and fun job for actors. It's when stuff is slightly intractable that you kind of think, oh God, I can't wait to go home.
What are you going on to next? Where are we going to see you next?
What I'm going to do next is I'm going to America next week to do a thing called Selma, which is about Martin Luther King and his relationship. It's partly his relationship with LBJ, Lyndon Johnson, who I play. It's about civil rights.
How are you preparing for that? I mean, obviously that's an iconic person to bring to life on the big screen.
Yeah, can't do an impersonation because I can't do an impersonation, but I'll think of something. Learn the lines, I'll do.
Message to fans about this film and why they should be making the effort to see it in the cinema.
It's good. I don't know, that's all I could say. It's good. It doesn't preach. Films that preach are bad films. This is a good film. And they'll like it. And even if they don't see it, they will know someone who has seen it who'll say, go and see this film.
For me, I mean, there's just so much to this that is so appealing, and it's really wonderful to be part of a period drama. I've never done a period drama before, and also the fact that Dido really existed, and that this was based on a true person's life, inspired by a real painting of Dido and her cousin Elizabeth, and the fact that it's got this Jane Austen sort of feel to it. There's a lot of romance in the drama, but also that we explore the issues of race and gender and equality and identity, sort of all wrapped up in a very layered, beautiful story.
What impact has being involved in this story had on you personally, and what impact are you hoping it's going to have on a wider audience?
Oh, this has just been the most incredible experience for me. It's my first lead role in a film, working with these incredible actors that you see around us, from Tom Wilkinson to Emily Watson to Miranda Richardson. And for me, I hope that audiences will really take from it the inspiration from Dido to, learn to be comfortable with who you are, and becoming comfortable in your own skin. So, and for me, I think that that's really what I responded to in the story as well. Following your instincts, not worrying about social conditioning or what people expect you to do, but doing what, your soul inside tells you is right.